Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at the Xero-Play quick release system from Hybrid Racing Simulation. I'm always on the lookout for a super stiff, no flex quick release system. So far, the Q1R has ruled the nest at the SRG. Now it's time to put this quick release through the SRG's review process. So, let's get to it. So let's take a closer look at this Xero-Play quick release from the guys at Hybrid Racing Simulations. First off, I have to say it's a good looking quick release. It's, especially compared to my old standby is the Q1R quick release. This is very nice as far as the curvature, it's got nice curves to it. It's very round. It's kind of like what a traditional quick release should look like compared to some of the other quick release systems out there that you see in racing cars. And yeah, it's got some great finish on it. It has this, let's go ahead and take this quick release off, the wheel side adapter off. Talk about that in a minute. Nice red anodization, and it just seems, as soon as you have it in hand, you know that this is a well machined. Just the tolerances are very, very close on this unit. Nice anodization everywhere, inside and out, inside the lever and out. So yeah, no shortcuts here. And you can see the way this little lever is working here. As you push it down, this bottom part closes up around the actually insert part of the wheel side adapter. We'll look at that more in a second. It has a nice black anodized finish on this rear part. Now this rear hub, you can get different rear hubs for this. You can get a 70 millimeter, and this particular one is for a Simucube 2 hub, and we'll see that when we get to the mounting consideration part of the review. And actually, if you look down in there, the front of this hub has a Simucube logo on it. See the little helmet in there with the Simucube? So, yeah, everything very well done here. As soon as you have it in your hand, you can tell, yeah, very nice. Got some nice beveling here on the front of this where the actual insert goes. I guess that's to help facilitate easy insertion. Yeah, that's what I wanted, insertion. Right, sometimes I can talk. Right, so yeah, just a very nice unit when you have it in hand. And these come with it. Now, actually, when you buy this, you'll get one wheel side quick release. And I think the most popular one is going to be the 70 mil. And I've got fingerprints all over this. Yeah, this is a very nice finish on this, but it does attract fingerprints like most glossy things. And you can see the construction here. Again, we have the 70 millimeter pattern around the sides. And these are threaded holes. You can see the threads in there. And we have some anti-tamper bolts in there. Apparently, they don't want you taking this apart. And you can see it is two parts. This stem here has a little flange on the back here, right? And of course, that's butted up against the flat part of this part that actually goes up against your steering wheels or whatever you have on your wheel to mount it. And yeah, so apparently they don't want you taking this off. But it is a two-piece unit, so if anything should happen to one side or the other, at least, I don't know if they actually will sell you one piece or the other, but it's nice to know that there is a way to take it apart. So, what else are we going to talk about? Oh yeah, and the finish is very nice on here. And when you put this in, first of all, I'm going to show you the profile on this. Both of these sides, first we have you can see obviously it's kind of a triangle coming to a point, but then it's flat right here. And we've got our angled sides on each side, and it's flat on the bottom, except for that little hole there, and that accepts the nylon piece that presses up on this whole unit to press it into the receiving end over here, which gives it a nice clamping surface. You have a clamping surface on this side, and this side, and a little bit of a smaller clamping surface on the bottom where this nylon piece is as it presses on the bottom. So yeah, that would tend to make it very secure, I think, and very robust for high torque levels on these direct drive wheels that we're using these days. Right. So what else are we going to talk about here? It's all aluminum construction. I actually got my magnet out and was out trying to find some steel on here. And yeah, everything's aluminum. Now these steel parts, obviously these are steel, but they're a stainless steel. In fact, my magnet will almost stick to that, but not quite. Let's see about this screw here. Yeah, it almost sticks to that screw too. But I can feel a little bit of magnetic pull there, which tells me that it's not an aluminum screw. I mean, just a little bit. So, steel where we need it, and aluminum everywhere else for lightweight. Speaking of lightweight, And I'm going to compare this to my Q1R that I've been using for years. As you guys well know, if you've been watching my videos, that's my go-to quick release up until now, maybe, huh? Right, so the thing is, this is all aluminum too, right? So the whole unit, when you put it together, is a lightweight unit, comparatively speaking, when you're talking about a Q1R system. Now, does that really matter? Well, you know, it depends on who you ask, right? But yeah, I'm just pointing out the differences here so you guys can make your own minds up on what you think the differences should or shouldn't be, if you like or don't like them, right? So this 70 mil, I got a spare one. Actually, I ordered a couple extra pieces, as I think everyone should do if you have a couple of wheels that you want to use with your quick release system, no matter what system you get. This 70 millimeter, this is the HRS, or the Xero-Play one, obviously. It's got the nice screen printed size on it there. This weighs 150 grams. Here's a picture of that. Right, so it's pretty lightweight when we compare it to this guy over here. And this is the 70 millimeter Q1R quick release. And of course, this is a stack of stainless steel plates. So yeah, you would obviously anticipate a greater weight here. But this weighed in at actually 214 grams. So yeah, quite a difference there. And on with that, continuing on with that theme, the 50.8 millimeter one weighed in at 108 grams, right? And our Q1R weighed in at 190 grams. Again, this is actually the same size on both of these, right? But so are these. So these are the same size too, because obviously they have to go into the same hole, right? So again, just a little comparison. And again, when you put this whole piece together with the aluminum wheel attachment or the wheel adapter inserted in it, and you do the same thing with your Q1R that had the whole unit together, there's a considerable amount of difference in the weight, for sure. Right. So that's just something I thought I would, you know, browse over and talk to you briefly about. Anything else about this before we get to the adjustments and all that stuff? Well, first we can talk quickly about how it works. And it's a very simple mechanism and very effective mechanism. And yeah, because of the tolerances so tight on this, I really like the way this works. All right, so as I touched on before, as you're closing this clamp, you can see this bottom piece down here, right? I can actually push up on it and close it that way. So when you push your clamp down, or the top clamp, and then you're folding it over, you can see how it brings that up. And doing that, you can see the nylon inside of there. Try to get a straight shot there, going up at the same time, right? And so that piece of nylon is engaging on the bottom that we saw before of this wheel side insert, right? So it's going up in there and pushing up. Now, when it goes up and seals inside of there and pushes up, I'm assuming that the flat part, well, you're going to see that, but there's a flap, see that flat plate that this nylon piece is mounted to is also pressing up against the bottom of this insert piece, right? So when you first put this in here with it open, like this, it's jiggling around, right? And it's designed, from what I can tell anyway, is that it will actually be pressed up. The whole thing gets pressed up into this. And as it gets pressed up into this triangle or semi-triangle shape, then that gives us a load surface, a loading surface here of this. This is a load-bearing surface here with the grooves cut in it. We have a load-bearing surface up here, right? And again on the other side with the grooves there. But on the bottom, from what I can see, we have a load-bearing surface across this area here, which is closer to the stem, which is not up here, which is good. It's closer to where all the structural integrity is of this adapter. So we have a bit there as it pushes it up. So as it pushes it up, everything tightens up. So all three sides grip as it's being pushed up, which makes it very, very stiff when you actually put this in here. Let's put it in right. So you can see it's jiggly there, but as I'm pressing up, because we saw before that bottom is actually pushing up on this. So as we close it, let's see a picture, let's see if I can get a shot of it there. As we close it, you can see it's pushing up and pushing this whole adapter, or the stem of the adapter, up into the top three pieces or parts of that hole. And you clamp it down, and there you go. Right? So now it's very, very tight. Very tight indeed. Right. So, yeah, and again, the litmus test obviously is when we have it mounted to the wheel. So, and we'll talk about mounting options in a second. And what we'll do next is get into how to adjust this to the proper tension so that you don't have any play when you have it on your wheel and you're using it. Now let's talk about the adjustability as far as the clamping pressure on this system. First off, I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Take that out. I want to use this wrench. Now, this wrench actually comes with, I meant to show you that anyway. They give you a bunch of candy for all you sweet tooth guys out there, and gals, right? And we get some stickers. Let's see, let's go through these stickers here. We get the hybrid simulation sticker there. Actually kind of shaped like a helmet, I think. And we get this cool one here. It's kind of got a three-dimensional thing going on here with the HRS logo. Hybrid racing simulations. Right. And we get this big one that's actually a picture. And I don't know if it's full size or not. No, not quite. That's full size. I think that's actually a full size picture of it that you can stick somewhere if you want. And what else do we get here? Oh yeah, from the man himself who makes this, Brett Stiles. You see that's his business card there from Hybrid Racing Simulations. What else do we get? Some screws. We got some 6mm screws for mounting duties. And these are stainless steel. And again, the wrench, which is what we're really interested in right now. But we get some swag at least, huh? Right, so on the bottom here, if you look where that nylon piece is mounted, there's a grub screw on the bottom of that, set screw, whatever you want to call it. And next to that, there's another little screw, right? And that little screw, there it is a 2.5mm. And what that does is it screws in sideways and puts pressure on this screw, this grub screw. So when we tighten this up or loosen it, we have to loosen this one first because that has a locking action on it. So this white piece in here, the nylon or Durlin or whatever that is in there, will actually stay where we set it. And so I'm going to do that. And this is a cool little wrench they actually include in here, a little three-way job. And it has a 2.5mm. I don't know how well that's showing up because of the lights in here, but it says 2.5mm there. We've got a 3mm over here. And then we have the big 4mm on the next side. So with this one wrench, you can actually make all the adjustments you need to this unit. So what I'm going to do is go in here and loosen this sideways grub screw first, because that again has a locking action. And you don't need to put a lot of tension, I don't think, on this locking grub screw, because yeah, it's actually pushing into the threads of this one here that's actually got the white piece on it, right? Then once we've done that, then we can go in with our 4mm section and tighten or loosen this, which is actually raising or lowering that nylon or Durlin block in there, right, to where we want it as far as how tight we want it as far as keeping things from moving around, obviously. So we'll go ahead and insert that in there, and I'll push it down. And what I do is I base it on how hard it is to push down or take off. And once it's in there and I pushed it that one time, it's like really loose now. So I know that's way too loose. So I'm going to take that back out, and I'm going to give this about 1/4 of a turn to tighten it up and see how that does. And again, this is a trial error thing where you got to get it where you want it. And that didn't do anything. So I'm going to have to turn it more than that. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a good turn like that. Okay. And you don't want it clamping, at least I don't want it clamping so hard that it's hard to get it off. Okay, that was pretty tight. That went in, I had to put some pressure on it to get that one on there. So yeah, that's about right though. I think that's about right for me. I might tweak it later on, but again, it's not just the feel of this clamp. Obviously, it's how tight this is going to be. And we won't know exactly where we need to be until we have it on the wheel and we're using it, and then we can truly adjust it and fine tune it at that point. But yeah, and one thing I noticed about this that I wanted to mention to you while I was showing you the adjustments. First, before we do that though, once this is locked down and I like where it's at, don't forget, we have to go back with our 2.5mm side and go in and snug that grub screw up against the other grub screw, right? And again, you don't need to torque the heck out of this thing. You just want to snug it up against those threads, right? You don't want to damage the threads that are on there. At least that's been my experience in the past with this kind of setup. Yeah, so, and again, what I was going to say is, one thing I noticed about this, one thing that so far that I've found that I would like to see a little different is these little pieces on the top here, you can see they're kind of, you really can't see it, I guess. You have to feel for it, but the edges are a little bit on the sharp side. You can feel a bit of a sharpness there. And because you're going to be putting your finger down in here and like this, and grabbing it there, yeah, you can scrape against your finger. I'd like to see these rounded off just a little bit, right? And make it smooth, so it's just a smooth round off there. Now, they may have left it in there for grip purposes, thinking that if it's round off too much, yeah, then you won't be able to grip it good enough to get it off. Yeah, so it's just one of those things, and I'm being nitpicky here, obviously. I'm trying to find something that I would like to see changed. So this is probably the only thing I'm going to find, to be honest with you. Right. So, yeah, so easy to make those adjustments, and when we're switching out from different wheels, we'll go ahead and throw that 50 in there. And yeah, that's the beauty of this system. If the exact same tension, at least it felt like the exact same tension was used to lock in this other one. Whereas that's the complaint of the Q1R system that I have, the only really complaint I have of that one. And that is this system, the tolerances, because of this stack here, right, on these Q1Rs, the tolerances aren't as tight, and that probably can't be as tight, I imagine, as they can be with a single piece like this that's being pressed into a pocket, if you will, right? So the tolerances aren't quite the same because of the construction here. I mean, we can CNC these to the thousandths of a millimeter, I'm sure, with the right machinery. So the tolerances are going to be tighter here, and that's going to make it so you can switch all your different wheels. You have 2, 3, 4, 5 wheels, whatever you have. You should be able to I'm assuming, to do this without having to make any adjustments. And that was the second one, right? So I had this one in there. I just did this one. So now I'm going to take my other spare one and put it in there and clamp it down. And yeah, it felt exactly the same as far as the tension it took to do that. And it's very tight. I can't get it to move. But then again, human hands and arms are no match for a direct drive torque type of steering wheel motor, right? The wheelbase we're going to mount it to. Right. So yeah, it's very simple to do the adjustments here. And yeah, it only takes, and once you have it adjusted, you shouldn't have to adjust it anymore. Unlike the Q1R, if I'm switching between this one and this one, chances are good I'm going to have to, if you're familiar with the Q1R system, it has like a bicycle quick release type of mechanism. It's a little different, but it works the same way. You have to reach underneath and either turn the nut that's on the other side of the quick release assembly tighter or looser to get this to fit right between the two, right? Because the tolerances just aren't the same between them. And that's really the only problem I have with the Q1R. It's a little bit, it's not that hard to do, obviously, and really it's nothing that you can really complain about because it's easy enough to do and it just takes another 2 seconds. But yeah, it is one thing that I don't think we're going to experience with this Xero-Play quick release. And I like, again, I really like this design because of the way everything can be cut the same, and the tolerances are just so tight everywhere on this unit. Yeah, very well done. So what we're going to do next is get to the mounting considerations on how I'm going to end up mounting this. Let's talk about the mounting options here. First off, this is the SemiCube Pro that you guys saw. I've done a review on that before, and I've already taken the front lug of the wheelbase side of the quick release system. Okay, and this actually has a peculiar hole pattern on it, and it was dictated by the way this lug is shaped, right? So that's why the hole pattern is not a standard industry standard. And I have when I got this, I wanted to get the SemiCube 2 hub on it, right? So that I can mount this directly to the SemiCube motor just like that, right? Simple enough. 3 bolts and we're done. But I'm not going to be using this SemiCube 2 wheelbase during this review. I'll be using my Bodner wheel. Right. So that means this is not going to work, right? But it will still work because, and this is a cool thing about having other pieces around. This is the adapter that comes, it's a custom adapter that comes from Asher Racing, right? And it has that 3-hole pattern in it, right? So you typically use this adapter on your SemiCube Pro if you wanted a 70 millimeter hole pattern coming straight off your hub on the Pro. And this has a pattern that would fit right on there. We put our bolts in here and we're good to go as far as mounting anything in a 70mm pattern onto this, right? So, but also in reverse, it also will allow me to mount this part of the hub, and I would use it this way. Let's see if I can get the holes to line up here. Come on, holes. Yeah, the pattern on this is one way and one way only as far as the Simucube thing. And there it is. There's the pattern. Okay. So I would just line this up and run a bolt through that hole there. Okay. I'm going to run a bolt, and I can run a nut on the other side. And using the 5mm nuts and bolts, everything has got clearance. In fact, you can see they've got this nice little recess piece machined all the way around where the holes are, so that we can actually put a washer and a nut on one side and a bolt or a screw, whatever, in the other side. And then once this is assembled here, then I'll have my 70mm pattern to mount directly to the Sim Steering 2 hub, right? And then I'm good to go. Then it's just a matter of mounting the wheel side of this quick release to the wheels that I'm going to be using. Simple enough. But I just want to show you guys that there are other options. You can actually order the Simucube 2 if you think you're going to get one, or if you have one. And yeah, this adapter from Asus Racing can help you do a lot of different things. But if you have a dedicated 70mm type of wheelbase, then yeah, you might want to get the 70mm instead of the SC2 one. But like I said, I have a different condition here at the SRG because I'm always testing stuff and moving things around. So I wanted this so I could mount it to my Pro anytime I wanted to, but I also have this so I can actually mount this adapter to it, and now I can mount this to any 70mm pattern that I want. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it has a 70mm. The old OSWs that I have, things like that, I can always mount this quick release. So I wanted to be able to be, you know, not stuck on one wheelbase. Obviously here at the SRG we do a lot of testing with different things. So yeah, great. So yeah, when we come back, what I'll do is, actually what I'm going to do is get this mounted to, I'm going to mount a 70mm pattern because of the wheel that I'm going to use. I'm going to need to use one of these guys, okay? So I'm going to mount this to the wheel, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the wheel and yeah, see how everything's looking. So now we've got our wheel side adapter on, and this is on the new R20 wheel from Turn Racing, and we're actually doing a review on this one too. And you can see that it's kind of nice that these are actually threaded, these adapters, unlike the Q1Rs that don't have threads in them. So you really don't need any nuts on them. The only reason I have a nut on this one is because you can see there's actually a ground wire for this Asus Racing button plate that needs to be on one of the bolts. So that's the only reason I have a nut there. Otherwise, yeah, you don't need any. And I would probably get shorter screws when I permanently end up mounting that for the rest of them. But yeah, still need a nut over there. Right, so, and you can see it's actually offset. Now, let's see, there we go. See, it's not straight up and down. So it's offset, so to be straight up and down, I'm gonna have to mount the wheel like this, which is no big deal because you're just gonna tell your direct drive wheelbase where the orientation of the wheel is to be straight up and down, so it really doesn't matter. Now, the actual hub, remember, I'm actually putting this on a Sim Steering 2 binary unit, so yeah, I'm using that Asus Racing adapter as we saw before in the first mounting segment as far as mounting considerations. And you can see that went on very nicely. I've got some 5mm nuts on there and some washers and the other socket head cap bolts. And you can see it's nice and flush, not to interfere with anything. And we're just going to mount this straight on, just like that, onto the hub that's attached to the shaft of the Kollmorgen motor that we're using on the SS2 system. Right, so simple enough to see how that's done. Now there is one thing I want to show you real quick while it's off, because it's easier to see that way. But because I got these shifters on here, right, as this is going on with the orientation here, it doesn't really matter which side I put it on, but I'm trying to see how best to show this. As I slide this on, you can see the latch is kind of hanging out there, and it is going to hit the shifter as it comes in, right? But that's not a big deal. It really is no issue at all, because all I have to do is very nicely put it up a little bit and it slides all the way on. Obviously, then I'm ready to clamp it down. No biggie, right? So there we go. And that's nice and tight. And I must say, I really like the looks of this. And I like the red. I'm glad I went with red instead of a different color like gold or silver or something, even though you got to be careful once you have a color like this, you know, anything aluminum that's anodized, you got to be careful about scratching it because there's no fixing it except getting it anodized all over again. But yeah, I like the way this looks. Now what we'll do next is just go over here and get this back off, and we'll go over and mount this to the Kollmorgen hub adapter, and then we'll be ready to go, and when we come back we'll see how all that looks. So here is the end result of my mounting configuration. You can see the Acer adapter is attached to the hub that clamps onto the shaft of this Kollmorgen 54G motor. And of course that adapter is working very well with the Simucube 2 hub that's on this Xero-Play unit. We'll go ahead and walk around here. See the other side. It looks like we're going to have some easy access to the clip here as far as changing wheels out. And what we'll do now is go ahead and demonstrate that by coming over here and grabbing this wheel. And I'm just going to use my thumb to flip this up. So just easy as that. And of course everything comes loose then. And all I have to do is pull the wheel off, minding the cable, obviously. Then we'll go ahead and put our R20 wheel on. Press it down. We're done. Awesome. Drape our cable. And we are ready to go. And it feels very firm, very stiff. But of course, again, the litmus test is running it on this motor and turning the torque all the way up and see how it does, which is what we're going to get to next. So now for a quick little torture test here, Sebring and the Lotus 79. You can see I've got my hands full here as we get racked around on those bumps that are at Sebring. And we have full force on the Kollmorgen 54G. And yeah, I'm taking a little punishment here. But yeah, the reason I'm doing this is because, well, you do some laps around Sebring with full force, yeah, it's going to show some weakness in any piece of hardware, if it has any. And I'm happy to say that, yeah, this passed flying colors, the Sebring test. No looseness ever occurred, so yeah, golden there. And then I decided to go over to the ring, and while I was testing out some other things for reviews, yep, I just left it on for that. And again, at the ring, a little more subtle here in a Ferrari 488 GT3. And yeah, still flying colors here. This thing just does a great job. You know, it's very, very solid, just as solid as my Q1R. And yeah, so that's something that I like a lot. And so now, obviously, I like the Xero-Play a lot. Not only that, but it does get the nod from me at the end of the day because there's no adjustments between switching wheels out like there is on my Q1R. Even though those adjustments are no big deal and it's nothing really to complain about, it's just part of the system. But yeah, the tolerances are better here on these connectors, the wheel side connectors, because yeah, they're all CNC'd out of aluminum like that. So yeah, at the end of the day, I have to say the Q1R is might be sitting on the shelf a little bit longer than I anticipated when I first got this in my hands. But yeah, the Xero-Play, yeah, it's just doing a great job, and yeah, I'm having a good time using it. And I guess that's all I really can say about a quick release. You know, we're just looking for flaws here, and to be honest, I just can't detect any. Just having a good time driving it. So what we'll do next, get to the final thoughts. Final thoughts on the Xero-Play quick release system from Hybrid Racing Simulations. You know, when it comes to using direct drive wheel systems, a solid connection between your steering wheel and the motor shaft is essential to realizing the full potential of the force feedback cues that your DD system is capable of delivering. Now, you could just bolt your wheel directly to the hub adapter on the motor shaft, and that would be fine. But if you use more than one racing wheel, then a quick release system is something that will make your sim racing life a lot easier. We still want that solid connection between the wheel and the wheelbase. And previously, really the only quick release system I would recommend would be the Q1R kit. But now we have the Xero-Play QR kit, and it is every bit as good as the Q1R. Constructed from 6061 aluminum and stainless steel, it has a lightweight feel to it, but at the same time a very solid feel. And once clamped down, I was never able to detect any movement or flex in the mating surfaces. I'm sure this result is due to the way the bottom of the mechanism presses the triangle mounting surfaces together, and because of the really tight tolerances used in their manufacturing process, I did not have to make any adjustments to the clamp when changing between different wheel side adapters, which is a welcome change from the Q1R, at least for the 3 that I have here. Something that, again, with the Q1R has been a sore point not just for me, but for other people out there, where tolerances really just aren't as tight on the wheel side adapter mechanisms. The Xero-Play has a nice finish on every aspect of the pieces used here, which gives it a very nice professional appearance. But I would like to see the points on either side of the top clamp plate rounded off just a bit more to relieve the sharp feeling they have when you're actually releasing the clamp during wheel changes. It doesn't affect the performance of the system at all. I'm just making an ergonomic observation of the kit that I have. Overall, the Xero-Play quick release is impressive in how solid of a connection it has, so much so that now I have 2 quick release kits that I will recommend when it comes to choosing a quick release system for direct drive force feedback wheelbases, giving the Xero-Play the nod between them for what seems to be a tighter manufacturing tolerance process on their respective mating surfaces, so no more adjusting between wheels, at least so far. I'm Barry Rowland. Thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you would like to help support what I do here at the SRG, visit my website at simracinggarage.com.